US President Donald Trump has nominated Neil Gorsuch as his choice to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. The Democrats have already said they have doubts about the nominee. Trump made the announcement at the White House, emphasizing the importance of the nomination and what impact he believes Gorsuch could have on future Supreme Court rulings.
I have always felt that after the defense of our nation, the most important decision a president of the United States can make is the appointment of a Supreme Court justice. Depending on their age, a justice can be active for 50 years, and his or her decisions can last a century or more and can often be permanent. I took the task of this nomination very seriously. I have selected an individual whose qualities define, really, and I mean closely define, what we're looking for.
Well, for the latest on a day of yet more dramatic political events, we're joined by our Washington editor, James Bays. Talk us through how the announcement was made, James, and the politics behind this decision.
Well, you saw Donald Trump make a formal announcement in the East Room of the White House, but there really were also echoes, for me at least, of Donald Trump in his past life as the reality TV star, as he announced the name of the new Supreme Court justice, if he's confirmed, but the one he wants to put in the job. He said he'd been looking for the very best judge in the United States when he made the announcement. You heard Donald Trump there explain why this is important, because the Supreme Court justice can stay there for the rest of his life if he wants. This goes way beyond normal electoral terms. And remember also that the Supreme Court at the moment, this vacancy has been there for almost a year. President Obama wanted to fill it. He wasn't allowed to do so by the Republicans on Capitol Hill, and it comes where you have a court where there are currently 4 judges who've been appointed by a Republican president, 4 judges who've been appointed by Democrat presidents. So there you have it. This is the very important 9th seat on the court. It will be filled if he's confirmed by Judge Neil Gorsuch. This is what he had to say.
The men and women I've worked with at every level in our circuit are an inspiration to me. I've watched them fearlessly tending to the rule of law, enforcing the promises of our Constitution, and living out daily their judicial oaths to administer justice equally to rich and poor alike, following the law as they find it and without respect to their personal political beliefs. I think of them tonight.
Donald Trump has now been the president for just 11 days. It seems, certainly for those of us that are covering every twist and turn, a lot longer than that, because there has been so much controversy over that period. And I think in the White House, they know this is controversial too. This is partisan too. They know that Democrats are not going to like this, but they're hoping this will be very popular with their core supporters, and it will drown out some of the other controversy, particularly over that immigration ban, Jane.
All right, thank you, James. Well, Shihab Ratanzi is live outside the court in Washington and joins us from there now. So what do we know about him, Shihab?
He's an incredibly conservative choice, especially when it perhaps comes to federal regulations, the power of the government to regulate corporations. Having said that, though, some are suggesting that he may be as conservative as he's been on several issues, even reproductive health care is another issue, for example. He may be giving some of those on the right wing of the Democratic Party an option to get behind him and not block his nomination. That issue of federal regulations is particularly interesting because actually in the last few minutes I've seen various environmental groups tweet out their opposition to his nomination for fear of his impact on regulations of corporations when it comes to the environment. But that is just one aspect of his very conservative decade on the bench.
People talk about members of their profession.
Neil Gorsuch believes the U.S. Constitution is not a living document to be interpreted in the context of 21st century America. Instead, it should be viewed through the eyes of those who wrote it at the end of the 18th century.
Judging is about, ultimately, the law as it is and not the law as it should be according to the subjective beliefs of the judge.
That was the same principle upheld by Justice Antonin Scalia, whom Gorsuch would be replacing should he be confirmed. It's thought this adherence to what's called an originalist viewpoint has contributed to his consistent record of conservative rulings over the last decade.
He has been very bad on workers' rights. He has shown that he has repeatedly worked for big business and corporations. We know that he will shut down regulations that have protected workers, and so that's a big concern of ours.
When he was nominated by President George W. Bush to the 10th Circuit in Colorado in 2006, he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate without controversy in a simple voice vote. He's shown himself to be suspicious of federal regulations as legal standards, and he has ruled in favor of Christian fundamentalist employers who didn't want to give their employees birth control as part of their health insurance. That's cheered many of those who are looking to overturn the Roe v. Wade ruling from the Supreme Court that ensured a woman's right to choose an abortion, although he hasn't specifically ruled on abortion itself yet. He's said to be personable both to liberals and conservatives alike, which may help his nomination. At 49, he's one of the younger Supreme Court justices in recent history who will bolster conservative power in the U.S. potentially for decades, should he be confirmed. So because he's in the mold of Justice Scalia, just basically restoring the format of the court, the nature of the court, the 5-4 conservative liberal nature of the court that we had since 2006, some of those on the right wing of the Democratic Party might be able to say, well, look, he's mainstream, we can maybe get on board. And remember, the Republicans only need 8 Democrats to confirm him. However, the Democratic Party is under enormous pressure right now. Already on the steps of the Supreme Court behind me, there are demonstrators. As far as they're concerned, it doesn't matter really about whether he's less worse than some other justice who may have been nominated. The fact is they want to block all of Trump's nominations. And as far as they're concerned, those Democrats who do vote in favor of him will be in trouble perhaps in the congressional elections to come, or at least they're trying to remake the Democratic Party as a more progressive party in the mold of Bernie Sanders and away from that corporate Clinton Democratic Party, some members of which might be tempted to vote in favor of Gorsuch. In fact, I just read an article by a former lawyer in the Obama administration speaking very highly of Gorsuch. So there's that split in the Democratic Party. It's all going to be down to that now. Who is going to be in the ascendant in the Democratic Party? Who's going to feel the pressure? Will those right-wing Democrats feel the pressure from that progressive wing to now earnestly block Gorsuch, or will they, in the end, say, or at least 8 simply say, look, perhaps this isn't the time to block this justice. Perhaps we can block another justice in the future if Trump gets another opportunity.
Interesting times, and it doesn't seem as if those protesters will be leaving any time soon. Thanks for that, Shihab.